This time last year, I was standing on a stage in Edinburgh announcing an imminent concert by Inti Illimani. They were on tour in Europe at the time of the coup, and they've never been able to go back. I believe last year 2 of them tried, and they weren't allowed off the plane. And they were part of the Chilean New Song movement, which in the eyes of the generals and the USA was a serious crime. It's the same crime that was committed by the man that this song's about. He wasn't exiled from Chile. He was murdered. The words are by Adrian Mitchell and the tune's by Arlo Guthrie. Victor Jara of Chile, he lived like a shooting star. He fought for the people of Chile with his songs and his guitar. And his hands were gentle, his hands were strong. Victor Jara was a peasant. He worked from a few years old. He sat upon his father's plough, and he watched the earth unfold. And his hands were gentle, his hands were strong. When the neighbours had a wedding, or one of their children died, his mother sang all night for them, with Victor by her side. And his hands were gentle, his hands were strong. He grew to be a fighter against the people's wrongs. He listened to their grief and joy, and he turned them into songs. And his hands were gentle, his hands were strong. He sang about the copper miners and those who work the land. He sang for the factory workers, and they knew he was their man. And his hands were gentle, his hands were strong. He campaigned for Allende, working night and day. He sang, "Take hold of your brother's hand, the future begins today." And his hands were gentle, his hands were strong. The bloody generals seized Chile. They arrested Victor then. They caged him in a stadium with 5,000 frightened men. And his hands were gentle, his hands were strong. Victor stood in the stadium. His voice was brave and strong. He sang for his fellow prisoners until the guards cut short his song. And his hands were gentle, his hands were strong. They broke the bones in both his hands. They beat his lovely head. They tore him with electric shocks. After 2 long days of torture, they shot him dead. And his hands were gentle, his hands were strong. Now the generals rule Chile, and the British have their thanks. For the rule were hawker hunters, and the rule were chieftain tanks. And his hands were gentle, his hands were strong. Victor Jara of Chile, he lived like a shooting star. He fought for the people of Chile with his songs and his guitar. And his hands were gentle, his hands were strong. His hands were gentle, his hands were strong.